listening to the RCWR Thursday Night Show with Lee Sanders.
And a very good Thursday evening to you all. This is the one and only Lee Sanders, and you're listening to the Thursday night edition of the RCWR Show. TNA Impact Wrestling just seconds went off the air, and what a very strong episode that it was, as 3 nights from now we are going to be going to TNA's 2012 Lockdown pay-per-view, and what a great way for Impact Wrestling tonight to really deliver. And we will get into more detail about the results of Impact Wrestling in case you missed it or in case you wish to jump in on a discussion. As always, our chat room is open. Feel free to jump in there and introduce yourself to other wrestling members and talk about what all just transpired on tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling or other wrestling-related news. And you are more than welcome to call our toll-free 800 number. That's right, toll-free, kick back, smile, and dial, and you'll be live on the air at 888-342-9848. Again, that toll-free 800 number is 888-342-9848. And you want to talk about an episode of Impact Wrestling where a home run was really needed to make you, the viewer, say, yes, I am definitely going to check out this pay-per-view this Sunday, and they really delivered. To date, this is probably one of the best, strongest episodes of Impact Wrestling I've seen in quite some time. And again, we'll be going into a little bit more detail about that in just a little bit. Just had to share with you all a very funny story, and I'll try to make it as brief as I can because we've got to cover Impact Wrestling. I'm also going to give you my picks on who I think is probably going to walk out of the Lockdown pay-per-view. And we got tons of other wrestling news to discuss along with entertainment, music news. But I had to share this funny story with you all real quick. I have this backyard patio that I've been meaning to clean up because I still have leaves on the ground, and I've been meaning to collect them so I can try to get them recycled or what have you. And I have this really nice glass table out in the back, and there's a series of lounge chairs out front. When it rains, we can cover it up. It's no problem. It's still okay to sit on. But I had noticed several weeks ago that one of the recliners, the padding, was just all exposed. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, either some, I don't know, radiation, radioactive acid rain just really tore through the material of the recliner, or maybe a bird or something was attacking it. And true story, my girlfriend had showed me a picture of what's been causing our recliners outside to get the extensive damage that it's been getting. And it turns out it's a squirrel. And I was just laughing my ass off because she took 2 really great pictures, and I'll be sure to post them on our RCWR Facebook page, which you'll be able to check out through Infinity One Productions. That's our Facebook page. And there's 2 really great pics of this squirrel. with just a big old ball of cotton in its mouth, like it's having a field day with cotton candy almost. And it's just got this really dumb look on its face, like, and it is just really hilarious. I'll be sure to post that on our Facebook page later tonight. I'll try to do it after I got done uploading this episode to iTunes and making it downloadable to listen to, things of that nature. But, yeah, so it's nice to know what's been going on. So it's kind of one of those situations where I say to myself, how come my dog hasn't been noticing this? Because there's many days where I'll have my dog go outside and enjoy a little bit of the weather, and she's been known to get up on the recliner and relax and enjoy the sun, and I've never heard her barking out there when it comes to the squirrels. So now, on top of trying to replace the furniture that's out there, I'm now trying to make sure that it's properly covered so that it doesn't get brutally butchered by squirrels. But anyway, all right, let's jump right into it. We got to talk about Impact Wrestling, and normally the way we usually start the show, we talk a little bit about wrestling news, entertainment news, all that stuff. Then we talk about the episode that just aired. But we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling first because it was, like I said, a really damn good, strong episode. I mean, it had everything that you would want. And from top to bottom, I mean, every single segment was just really good, as the show opened up with a video package recapping the confrontation between Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, with Hulk Hogan proposing to Eric Bischoff, why doesn't he get a team together to face off against his son, Garrett Bischoff, as Garrett Bischoff will be making his own team as well. And Hulk Hogan put an interesting stipulation out there. He said that if Garrett Bischoff's team were to lose at the Lockdown pay-per-view, that Garrett Bischoff would be done pursuing a career as a wrestler. He would have nothing to do as a wrestler in the TNA organization, which Eric Bischoff was very delighted to hear. However, on the flip side of that, if Garrett Bischoff's team were to win, then Eric Bischoff would be done in the TNA organization, and on top of that, Eric Bischoff would be also having to no longer use his name. He would have to adopt a new name legally. And despite those interesting stipulations, Eric Bischoff agreed, feeling very confident that he was going to be winning going into the Lockdown pay-per-view. So we saw a video package recap of that encounter last week on Impact Wrestling. This week we see Eric Bischoff make his way to the ring, and I must say, the new beard, I can't give Eric Bischoff enough praise. That beard is really making him look really sophisticated, really medieval, just badass. He needs to just keep that. It looks really good on him right now. But Eric Bischoff gets in the ring, and he is just working the crowd really well. And I'm not sure, for those of you that saw the episode of Impact tonight, but there's this one fan in the crowd that kind of caught my attention. And if you have it on your DVRs, you'll be able to rewind and see exactly the person I'm talking about. There's this one guy, he kind of had a pot belly. It was a white guy. He had a pot belly, brown mustache, real short hair. He took his T-shirt off and was trying to hand it to a friend, and he kind of came off as if he was going to try to climb over the guardrail and confront Eric Bischoff as he's making his way out to the ring. I just thought that was kind of hilarious because obviously the wrestling head really went hardcore to this guy's head. But anyway, Eric Bischoff gets in the ring, and the fans are just really letting him have it, and he is just working them really well as he introduces his team for Lockdown this Sunday, and his team consists of the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, along with Kazarian, Gunner, and Bully Ray. What a very strong team that is, as those gentlemen would make their way to the ring and almost in a cocky type of proclaiming victory are celebrating with Eric Bischoff of this new formation. It would be Bully Ray that would pick up a microphone and tell Eric Bischoff, in my honest opinion, just what great ass-kissing Bully Ray was doing by sucking up to him. And the fans were chanting, "We don't care," as Bully Ray was saying, "Do you all know who this man is?" And the crowd is going, "We don't care, we don't care." And Bully Ray is reminding everybody that this is Eric Bischoff and just really tooting his horn, and notes that as proud as he is of him and that he's willing to go to war with him, he's made one mistake so far, and that mistake was his bastard son, Garrett Bischoff. And from there, Garrett Bischoff would come out, and he actually received a very nice pop from the crowd. I guess I've been kind of dumbfounded. I'm not really sure what to make of this. If you've been listening to the show weeks prior, I have been very passionate about Garrett Bischoff not really having any type of business in wrestling right now. I mean, referee, that's fine. Maybe working in the back, in production, helping out with the show, I'm okay with that. But to sit up and be an active wrestler, and then just the way he is being presented before us from a viewing standpoint, it just leaves a very bitter taste in the mouth. But I'll go more into that a little bit later. But Garrett Bischoff would come out, and he received a very nice pop as he would introduce only one of his teammates that's going to be taking on Eric Bischoff this Sunday, as our first match is underway, as it'll be Gunner versus, and this is Garrett Bischoff's first pick, Mr. Anderson. And in that match, Mr. Anderson would lose his cool, as he still remembered the events that had took place last week on Impact Wrestling, and he would lose his cool and he would just repeatedly attack Gunner, and the referee let him know that he was going to disqualify him after counting to 5. Mr. Anderson would not let up on his offense, and the referee had no choice but to call for a disqualification, as throughout the night it was revealed that there was going to be a best-of-3 series between the teammates of Garrett Bischoff facing off against the team of Eric Bischoff. And whichever team won the best-of series would have a man advantage going into the pay-per-view this Sunday. But so far, it is not kicking off to a good start, as now it looks like Eric Bischoff's team has the one-up. From there, we see Eric Young and Joseph Parks in the backstage segment, as Eric Young is trying to hurry up and get ready for the big night, as tonight he is going to be tying a knot with ODB inside a steel cage. And Mr. Parks, seeking information from Eric Young, he basically let him know, hey, by chance, you have to have heard what happened to my brother Abyss. I am not really sure what's going on. My leads have been dead so far. If you could just point me in the right direction, if you heard anything. And of all the people, after we have seen Joseph Parks weeks after weeks after weeks of trying to find out the whereabouts of his so-called brother, Abyss, it would be Eric Young who would reveal to Joseph Parks that the last time he saw Abyss, he was tied up with the members of Immortal, and that Joseph Parks should focus his attention on possibly talking to the members of Immortal. And it's just one of those very interesting situations where how come Joseph Parks didn't find this out sooner? It seems like it's kind of dragging along, but I'm still very curious where this storyline is going to go. As I said a couple of weeks back, it would be really cool if this storyline could just take a really sick twist and have Joseph Parks come to a self-realization that he is Abyss, that he has some type of a split personality disorder. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But of all the people to inform Joseph Parks that, hey, you might want to look into Abyss, it would be Eric Young. And it's so silly if you think about it, because just last week, if I'm not mistaken, Joseph Parks had spoke with the people in the production truck about his brother's whereabouts, and who better to have informed Joseph Parks, hey, you might want to look into Immortal, than the guys in the truck, because they have all the audio, they have all the video footage, they got the archives. To me, from a writing standpoint, it just really would have made more sense if it would have been one of the guys in the back say, hey, think I might have something that might help you. This was some of the footage from the last time that Abyss was here in the Impact Zone. Check out the tapes. Maybe it'll help you out. And then maybe this week it could have been a situation where Joseph Parks, he still could have done a segment with Eric Young and let him know how he saw some of the footage and maybe ask about some of the whereabouts of some of the Immortal members. But they kind of dropped the ball here, but they can still kind of rebound on it a little bit. So we'll see how that goes after the pay-per-view and on next week's Impact Wrestling. But from there, we would go back live in the ring with Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. That's right, the Motor City Machine Guns, they're back, and they're looking better than ever. And they cut a really good promo. They let it be known that for 6 of the 10 years in TNA, they have been the most dominating, most decorated tag teams. They buried Samoa Joe and Magnet, saying that they have only been champions for a few weeks, and they have been champions many times, and that, yeah, Magnus and Joe, they may have defeated Matt Morgan and who's the other guy, Crimson, but that the only thing that those two guys were good at was rubbing each other down with baby oil before coming out for their match. So they really took those guys as a joke, as they are promising the tag team champions that come this Sunday, they basically are going to be bringing their A game, and they are going to be the next TNA tag team champions. And from there, the tag team champions would come out, and they would let it be known that they do respect everything that the Motor City Machine Guns has promised, but that, hey, if they don't want to wait until Sunday, they are more than likely to get it on right then and there. And just before these 4 men could, if you will, get up on it, it would be the Latin Exchange that would come out and interfere and say that, hey, we had the tag team championships for 6 months. It should be us that should be involved in this little dance as well. And we aren't going to just do all this talking, and they would try to do a surprise attack on the challengers and the champions, but it did not work well in the end, as they got their asses handed to them and got thrown out the ring. And our second match of the evening saw Christopher Daniels, remember he is now part of Team Eric Bischoff, taking on a member of Garrett Bischoff, and Garrett Bischoff's second pick to face Christopher Daniels, and the second pick for his team is none other than the TNA X Division champion, Austin Aries. What a really great pick there. And I was watching this match very carefully along with others, and I think we all can definitely agree the match that Christopher Daniels and Austin Aries had tonight was a definite classic matchup. I was just really on the edge of my seat watching this match, as for me, at least to my knowledge, this was the first time that these two have locked it up, and it was just a really great match, and it's really nice to see Austin Aries really being given that chance to really stand out, as I feel, and you mark my words on this, I feel that the way Austin Aries has been coming along so far, that he definitely has what it takes, despite his size and how small he might be. I definitely feel he has enough to be a TNA World Heavyweight champion. Now, that's not going to come at a very fast rate, I don't feel. But in due time, I do strongly believe that he definitely has what it takes. And his time will come if he just remains diligent and he just keeps doing what he's doing, which is just amazing us with his beautiful arsenal of moves. I mean, the one move that he does, which he did not do on Christopher Daniels, as he would pick up the win to even it up 1-1 for both respective teams. He did the brain buster, but he didn't follow it up with the submission move. And if you've noticed on Impact Wrestling, Taz and Mike Tenay, they really have not named that finisher of his. For those of you that like a little bit of trivia, I had to do a little bit of homework. I said the name a few times, but the name of that brain buster immediately followed up by the choke submission move that he does. It's called the Horns of Aries. So that's a great little pop quiz for you in case you ever find yourself in a situation where, I don't know, maybe you want to win some money or you just want to show off your wrestling brain. I don't know. Anyway, from there, Jeff Hardy is on his way out next, as he would cut a very brief promo, and I kind of was kicking back, and I said to myself, okay, that's it. We don't even get a Kurt Angle appearance, because Jeff Hardy's promo on Kurt Angle was very brief. It took up probably 3 minutes, as the steel cage was finished being complete for ODB and Eric Young's wedding reception. And Jeff Hardy just basically said in that 3-minute montage that he is looking forward to taking on Kurt Angle this Sunday, and that when it's all said and done, Kurt Angle isn't going to have any places to hide. There's not going to be any more shenanigans. He's not going to be able to win by a DQ or a count out. This is just going to be a straight up, you got to do what you got to do to get the win. And Jeff Hardy would leave the ring immediately after that. From there, we will see a video promo from James Storm, as he is talking about how their friendship meant a lot to him, how they used to be in beer money. They were one of the most decorated, respected tag teams in the TNA organization, and how everything has just changed since Robert Roode has become TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and that he is going to do everything in his power to become the champion this Sunday. And one other interesting note about this video promo. This video promo was shown tonight, but if you saw the episode, it just was kind of weird to me. they let it be known that the footage was from last Thursday, as last Thursday he had country musician guest Montgomery James, who did his theme intro music video, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, I really kind of felt as if they really didn't need to have the two musicians talking on behalf of James Storms. I get the affiliation. I get that these guys, they made his music video, they made his song. I get that, but I just kind of really felt like, okay, this should really just be about Roode and Storm. And I like how they quickly rebounded on this later, but I just couldn't help but nitpick at that, as I felt that honestly that segment really wasn't needed. If anything, it just should have been shown as exclusive video footage for last week's episode online. There was no reason to air that tonight. From there, we would go to the steel cage wedding with ODB and Eric Young, and just a little bit prior to that, very funny situation Eric Young found himself to be in as he's hyping himself up, very excited that he's going to be marrying the woman that he loves so much, when Rosita and Sarita come in and they try to tempt him with a little suave skin. You know, they say to him, look, you know, once you get married, you're not going to be able to go around and fool around like you used to. You're going to have to stay committed to just one woman. Are you really sure you want to take that risk? And they tried to pull all the stops as they revealed a little bit of skin and said to him, look, you're really sure you want to do this? While at the same time also mentioning to Eric Young that he has a lot on his shoulders as far as the TNA Knockout Championship belts goes, as he is one half of the champions, the other one being his fiancée, ODB, and they were trying to convince him to drop the belts. And Eric Young, he remained very adamant, and he basically got himself out of that sticky situation as he said, no, he's going to marry ODB. So with that in mind, now we go to the wedding ceremony, and what a really nice wedding ceremony that it was, as Eric Young is dressed as a broke, haggard down-looking version of Clark Kent with his bad-looking 70s sky blue outfit on. He just looked brutally bad. But ODB, she actually looked very gorgeous as she was wearing a nice dark green silk type of outfit, wedding dress. She looked really nice, and two of them would get in the ring, and you just knew that somebody was going to be interrupting this ceremony. The question was who was going to be interrupting it, and I must admit I was a little bit premature in my judgment. I thought that maybe it was going to be somebody that we hadn't seen in several months. I was thinking, well, hell, maybe it might be the Pope, D'Angelo De Niro. What could explain him for interrupting, I'm not sure, but I was just really thinking out of the box. But you knew that this wedding ceremony was going to be interrupted, and who would interrupt it? It would be Sarita and Rosita. And they basically tried to taunt Eric Young one more time. They tried to convince him to not marry ODB, that he would be missing out on some really good ass. And as one of our followers said, TNA's knockouts are whores, and I could kind of see where she was coming from, as Rosita and Sarita took turns hyping up the other's body to Eric Young, and ODB is just standing there in the ring looking oh so sad with the most pouty look on her face as she sits up and goes, well, look, I know I don't have what they have, but I got the next best thing, and she would take off her wedding dress, and Lord have mercy, I mean, she just has cannons, what can I say? You can't really compare with that. She doesn't have one of those bony shapes, but she has a little nice thickness to her, and I think that was more than enough to convince Eric Young that nope, I'm going to marry ODB, but this is going to be a underwear ceremony. So they made their pastor, and you just know this wouldn't happen in real life, that you have a pastor strip themselves down in their underwear to marry somebody. You know it's not going to happen. But in make-believe TV land, of course, anything can happen, as the referee was stripped down to his T-shirt and underwear and proceed to marry Eric Young and ODB, who officially tied the knot despite those shenanigans from Rosita and Sarita. From there, we cut to a backstage segment now with Ric Flair, Eric Bischoff, and the rest of Team Bischoff as they're hyping up Bully Ray, trying to get him ready for his next match, as this is now the final third match of the best of series. Remember, whoever wins will have a one-up advantage at the pay-per-view for their respected team. From there, we would see Robert Roode along with his staff, and I'm just curious, has anybody noticed, I mean, really paid really close attention to Robert Roode and his staff? Some of those faces look very familiar, and if you're kind of scratching your head and you're saying, yeah, they kind of do, I just can't recall where I've seen them. Well, I did a little bit of homework, and a few of those faces are recycled. Some of those faces turned out were used for Jeff Jarrett when he had the angle with Kurt Angle, and he was talking about how he was going to be an MMA fighter, and he had a better record than Kurt Angle, and he, for a few weeks, had his own henchmen, his own bodyguards. Well, some of those same guys that were working as bodyguards for Jeff Jarrett are working as bodyguards for Robert Roode. I just thought that was kind of interesting there. As Robert Roode and his staff behind him, he basically said, you know, he doesn't mind meeting James Storm one last time tonight, as he feels his match with Storm this Sunday is going to be more than a match, that it's more than personal to in that backstage segment. From there, we go to only our third match of the evening, as Team Eric Bischoff's Bully Ray takes on, and I wish there was a drum roll, but Garrett Bischoff has picked none other than the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. So AJ Styles is a member of Garrett Bischoff's team, and the winner of this match would be Bully Ray. That's right. And here's basically what happened during this contest. And you have to keep in mind that when it was revealed that AJ Styles was the next member for Garrett's team, the rest of Garrett's team came out, and in support, they were at ringside watching the match between Bully Ray and AJ Styles. Now, a little bit later on during this contest, Team Bischoff would come out, and they would basically get into it with Garrett's team. And the critical point in this matchup is when Eric Bischoff takes Bully Ray's chain and he throws it in the ring, and Bully Ray, he gets it while AJ Styles is down in a corner somewhere, wraps it up around his fist, boom, knocks him out, and he's able to pick up the win that way. But just before Team Eric Bischoff could be done celebrating, the one and only, the TNA General Manager, Hulk Hogan, would come out, and he would say, typical Eric Bischoff, I figured that you were going to do some stuff like this. It's okay, I've already been preparing for this. You now have 3 minutes, because instead of it being a 4-on-4 this Sunday, it's now going to be a 5-on-5. So guess what? You now have 3 minutes to pick your 5th team player, and that would end on a commercial. We come right back, and Eric Bischoff has decided that he's going to be the 5th member of the team, after it looked as if it was possibly going to be Ric Flair, after he kept saying, Flair, I need you to do me a favor, and just kind of gave you a little swerve ball there, as it almost came off as if it was going to be Flair, but it would be Eric Bischoff who would say, I will be the 5th member for the team, because Hogan, nothing would give me more pleasure than to stand over your dead body as you lay in defeat. But Hulk Hogan, once again, knowing the type of man that Eric Bischoff is, would let Eric Bischoff know that, hey, I knew you were going to do that, but I am really committed to my duties as the TNA general manager. It's not going to be me that is going to be getting in that ring. I am not going to be the 5th person in this contest. Instead, the person that is going to be joining Garrett Bischoff's team as its 5th member will be none other than, and it would be revealed to be none other than RVD. That's right, Rob Van Dam, who has been gone for many months now, made his triumphant return, and though he had a T-shirt on, from what I was able to see of Rob Van Dam, he looks to have lost a little bit of weight, although I could be wrong. I just, off the break, I didn't even have to look at him that hard. His legs are more defined, his arms are more defined, but really it's the legs. Those legs look really chiseled. And I could tell he wasn't just flexing or anything like that. So I can't wait to see how he looks in-ring shape-wise, as we know he can still do what he needs to do. But it's just one of those situations. I was kind of happy to see him come back, but at the same time, it wasn't what I was expecting. Yet, I knew that in no shape or form that it was going to be Sting, despite the many fans that were chanting for Sting's name tonight. As no, Sting, unfortunately, is done right now. We are not going to be seeing Sting for quite a long time, as he needs to rest up and spend time with his family. You know how it is with Sting. We'll probably see him probably around, I would say maybe September, maybe August, we'll probably see him pop up again. But from there, we see another video package of Robert Roode as he's bashing James Storm, and he's mentioning how it was he that got James Storm where he is in the point of his career right now, as it is because of him that they became champions, and that he made him what he is today. And on the flip side of that, we cut back to James Storm, who is saying in his respected segments that it took 10 years building a company, 4 years of friendship with Robert Roode, and that in 3 days the bullshit will stop. And from there we have our 4th match of the evening, which is Mickie James teaming up with Velvet Sky to take on Gail Kim and Madison Rayne. And folks, I honestly got to tell you, I was very impressed with what I saw of Velvet Sky tonight. This girl really is bringing her A game. And just to let you know how serious she was tonight, she did not let the pigeons loose. And I was a bit saddened by that, because I did not get my usual smile that I get when I watch Velvet Sky let those pigeons loose. And I couldn't agree more with Taz that it is a character problem that she has when she does not let those pigeons loose. So I don't know. I'm just saying, I might have to make a trip down to Orlando Studios, Florida, for an episode of Impact Wrestling. And I don't know, I might be there with a sign that says, you best damn make sure you let those pigeons loose. But anyway, yeah, Velvet Sky, I just get more and more impressed with her each week. And I'm sure all of you other TNA wrestling fans, you all can definitely agree. This girl has come a really long way. And to date, the way she moved in that ring tonight, she is definitely going to be ready for her match against Gail Kim for the Knockouts Championship this Sunday. And though I'm jumping the gun a little early, I am definitely picking her as one of the people I feel is going to win at the Lockdown pay-per-view. I'll go more into my picks later on. But from there, one last time, which would end the night, one last time, James Storm, Robert Roode, they would face off in the ring. And you want to talk about a build-up. You want to talk about a great storyline. I was very impressed with both men in this final 10 minutes of Impact Wrestling as they stood face-to-face in the ring, and they just really let it all air out, from Robert Roode basically saying, look, you can cut the bullshit. You and me were never friends to begin with. As a matter of fact, when we both started off in this company, we both hated each other's guts. The only reason why Beer Money was successful in the first place is because we both had our own hidden self-agendas. We both wanted to be successful single competitors. That's why Beer Money worked so well. And I mean, Robert Roode, this guy, as I'm watching him talk, the one thing that I just kept saying to myself tonight was, man, this guy reminds me so much of Triple H. This guy has a silver tongue when it comes to the microphone. He knows how to work it very well, and it is just one of those situations where I really feel TNA really has a true gem on their hands with Robert Roode. And let me not just give all the praise to Robert Roode. James Storm has come a very long way as well, as during his final confrontation with Robert Roode, he let it be known that, hey, you know, you and me, we used to be friends. We already know where James Storm is coming from. We used to be friends. Things changed the moment that we got involved in the Bound for Glory series. And, yeah, I lost my match, and you went on to face Kurt Angle, but you lost to Kurt Angle. But 2 weeks later, I turned around, and I beat that same man that you couldn't beat. And Robert Roode is like, yeah, you might have beat that same guy, but I came right back around, and I ended what was probably the shortest reign as TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And I've been holding the belt since. And James Storm, don't get me wrong, he's come a long way as well, and I like his character. Really, really good. It's one of those, he reminds me of a modern Dusty Rhodes. That's the best way I can put him. He's just a hard-working man. He believes in family. He believes in loyalty. He believes in what's wrong must be set right. I like that. I dig that. But I've got to go with Robert Roode right now. Robert Roode is probably one of the hottest things that TNA has right now. And with this storyline that they have been handling, and I think any TNA wrestling fan or even just the occasional wrestling fan that has been watching very closely what's been going on with Roode and Storm, I think they can definitely agree, despite the many screw-ups that TNA Impact will have on a weekly basis, they have been giving extra care to this storyline/rivalry. And what a great way to have the viewers go home and say, you know what, these guys definitely hate each other's guts. This is definitely one of those pay-per-views that I got to check out because there is so much history between these two guys. I mean, you walked away from tonight, as well as the other times, but definitely tonight, you walked away definitely feeling like these two guys definitely hate each other's guts. They just don't like each other. They, in my honest opinion, they captured lightning in a bottle. I'm going to jump out there. I think they captured lightning in a bottle better than Rock and Cena. Now, I know that is a very huge statement, but I challenge you, go back from as far back as WrestleMania 28, when The Rock returned and he confronted John Cena. You add all that up, all the way up to WrestleMania. What WrestleMania did we just have? WrestleMania 29. Yeah, no, WrestleMania 29 is next year, so correction. Last year was 27. This year was 28. So just add up what's been going on with The Rock and Cena. And you compare that to the rivalry between James Storm and Robert Roode. It's basically the same path, but TNA has been able to execute it better with their two guys. And I've heard a lot of people say the same thing over and over again, that Robert Roode, if he's a smart man, he needs to jump ship as soon as his contract becomes available and he needs to go into the WWE. I only have one thing to say to that. I think that if Robert Roode is smart, I think he should stay with TNA, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. I honestly don't feel that Robert Roode would have the same type of creative freedom that he has in TNA, and I just don't see that happening if he were to go to WWE. I would like to believe that he would, but I don't see that happening. I see him being treated as his old partner of AMW. Man, I can't think of his name right now. I apologize, but y'all know who I'm talking about for you TNA wrestling fans, and for those of you that might be in the chat room, I haven't really checked yet, but if you know the name I'm talking about for the guys that used to be in AMW, I know it was Robert Roode. I just can't think of the other name right now. I kind of want to say maybe Chris Harris. I'm not really sure, but I just don't see it being as successful, because remember, when he went into the WWE, I mean, he got let go so fast it wasn't even funny. He was probably on one episode of ECW where he was in some type of a backstage segment, and he had a dark match or two, but then he had one televised match. It didn't go as successful, and the next thing you know, they cut him loose. I just don't really see Robert Roode being as successful as he is right now in the WWE, which is a damn shame, because this guy is the new Triple H, if not better. And for me to say that is a huge statement, because I've watched the career of Triple H for many years, and I just love how this guy, Robert Roode, talks. He backs it up, and one thing's for certain, folks, come lockdown, he's going to do everything in his power to keep that championship belt. Let's do this. We're going to take a commercial break, and then when we come back, I'm going to give you my picks on who I think is going to win at the Lockdown pay-per-view this Sunday, and then I'm also going to share with you a bit of wrestling news and a bit of music news. And for those of you that are not aware, I'll give you a little hint. got some unfortunate news for Guns N' Roses, so you definitely want to stick around for that. So we'll be back in about, 2 minutes. Stick around. It is the Thursday night edition of the RCWR Show.
Talking to clients all day long can make me real hungry. When I'm hungry, I'm not a very good listener.
Snickers satisfies you.
To tell you the truth, I keep a Snickers bar in the third drawer of my desk. Takes the edge off my hunger and fills me up just fine.
Packed with peanuts, peanut butter nougat, caramel, and milk chocolate.
Satisfies you.
Packed with peanuts, Snickers really satisfies.
When it seems like forever to my next meal, Snickers holds me over beautifully.
Michael Jackson is back in action with his new album, Thriller. Thriller, Michael's new album featuring his latest hit, Billie Jean, plus his smash single with Paul McCartney, The Girl Is Mine.
The girl is mine.
Michael Jackson, Thriller. The excitement never lets up.
Available at all Sam Goody stores for $6.99 LP, $7.49 tape.
You're listening to the RCWR Thursday Night Show with Lee Sanders.
All right, and we are back. You are listening to the Thursday night edition of the RCWR Show, and it looks like we had a couple of people that were in our chat room, and it looks like they got kicked out. I apologize. You are more than welcome to jump right back into the chat room now, as I should be relaunching now. Yeah, it's relaunching now. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, anyway. Let us talk about the TNA Lockdown pay-per-view that's coming up this Sunday. Normally, I do a special Call That match, and I'm definitely going to do a separate one. I'll go into a little bit more detail about my picks for the Lockdown pay-per-view, so you'll be able to check that out on our YouTube channel at the RCWR Show. But in the meantime, and because of keeping track of the time here, and I want to cover some more wrestling news and music news, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on who I think is going to win in about 5 minutes or less. Let's start from the bottom, and we'll work our way up to the top. Now, we got the steel cage match with the Blueprint, Matt Morgan, taking on Crimson. Okay, now, they haven't really been hyping up Crimson's winning streak, and at this point, I don't really see where else they can go with Crimson right now. I would like to see Matt Morgan beat Crimson, but at the same time, the rivalry will continue as a result. I want to see what Crimson is really capable of. He needs that mean streak right now. He needs something that will push him over the edge. So for me, I'm going to say Matt Morgan is going to pick up the win. Now, how he's going to pick up the win, I can see a clean finish. Either a clean finish or Matt Morgan wins by maybe disqualification, possibly a count out. But either way, I see Matt Morgan picking up the win and Crimson being very bitter about it. All right, let's move on to the next match. We got the television championship as the champion Devon takes on Robbie E. Now, for this one, this was a situation where a lot of us were kind of like, why is Robbie E. not defending his television championship on a regular basis, and then he just lost it in his first defense probably against Devon at TNA's last pay-per-view, Victory Road. There really hasn't been any type of a storyline between Devon and Robbie E. It was just pretty much at Victory Road. Devon comes from out of nowhere, challenges Robbie E. Boom, he becomes the champion. Since then, we haven't seen anything. So, despite that, I'm going to have to go with Devon. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to invest in this type of match, but since the match is on the card, you got to pick a winner. I'm going to go with Devon. I see him retaining. I just hope that after this title defense, they start putting him in some type of a program with somebody that we can see him work with on a semi-regular basis on Impact Wrestling. From there, we go to our Knockouts Championship match, and I've already said that it needs to be Velvet Sky. Gail Kim, I am not sure what's going on with Gail Kim, as when she returned to TNA last year, she just add up her return last year to now, she really hasn't made that much of an impact again. Whereas the first go-around that she was in Impact Wrestling, she came off as if she had a lot to prove. And she did so, as she was a hell of a Knockouts champion. But I hadn't really seen anything from her since she's returned to Impact Wrestling. I think now is the time you go on ahead and you put the belt on Velvet Sky. Now, my heart is telling me Velvet Sky should win. But after really considering it, I'm going to go with Gail Kim. I'll tell you where this will probably go. Gail Kim retains, but the program with Velvet Sky will continue, and maybe they could do more of a build-up for Velvet Sky to really make sure that they get her over, even though they already know that she is over with a lot of fans. And I see the next pay-per-view, her becoming the Knockouts champion. All right, let's go with the World Tag Team Championships right now. Motor City Machine Guns versus Magnus and Samoa Joe. Now, Magnus and Samoa Joe, they have been on one hell of an impressive winning streak as of late. They've been looking very impressive as a tag team. This is really going to prove to be a great matchup of intensity, I believe. And with that in mind, I'm going to go with Magnus and Samoa Joe. I see them retaining. I just don't see how you can just put the belts on the Motor City Machine Guns off the break, and this is only going to be their second match since they've reformed. So it just doesn't really make sense to me from a booking writing standpoint to just have them win off the break. All right, let's move on to the next match. We got the Enigma, Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle. Now, with this one, and considering the late-breaking news that had came out about Kurt Angle, which I'll get into in a little bit, I see Jeff Hardy winning and Kurt Angle probably taking maybe a week or two off. Again, I'll go into more detail about Kurt Angle in a little bit. And we got Team Eric Bischoff versus Garrett Bischoff. Now, for those of us that already know what's really going on behind the scenes here, we already know that Eric Bischoff, several weeks back, he signed a contract with TNA along with Hulk Hogan. They're going to be around, if I'm not mistaken, for the next 2-3 years. So with that in mind, now we decide on, okay, well, who's going to get the win? I'm going to go with Team Garrett Bischoff. I think that this whole fiasco with Eric Bischoff changing his name and all that other stuff, I think that it would be kind of funny to play with and see what happens. And I can also understand from a writing standpoint trying to put more of a spotlight on Garrett Bischoff to possibly silence those that are sitting up saying, well, Garrett Bischoff is only being successful as he is right now because of who his father is. So I would kind of look at Eric Bischoff losing and changing his name and all that as a way of trying to put more spotlight on his son. Now, whether we like it or not, Garrett Bischoff is going to be around in TNA for as long as Eric Bischoff remains in TNA, and we can be disgusted all we want. We're just going to have to get used to it, or most powerful thing that we have is a remote control, and we can just change the channel whenever we see Garrett Bischoff. But again, Garrett Bischoff is going to pull the win on that, I feel. And with regards to Robert Roode defending his championship against the Cowboy James Storm, Robert Roode has been white hot. The man has been just fantastic as a TNA champion. I see no reason whatsoever to have him lose the title. I see him remaining your TNA World Heavyweight Championship. But where does the Cowboy James Storm go from there? Well, I could possibly see these two maybe working another program. I don't know if it'll happen immediately, but I do see these two locking it up one more time. But Robert Roode's just got too much going for him right now. It would just be really weird to see him on an episode of Impact Wrestling next week without his championship belt. So that's my picks for Lockdown, and we definitely would like to hear your picks. You can definitely let us know by checking out our Facebook page at Infinity One Productions, where we post a lot of cool stuff, a lot of non-wrestling related material that we post on there. You definitely want to check that out, or you can send us a tweet, let us know your picks. We are on Twitter at Infinity1Prod, and definitely be sure to check out our website, as we are always posting updates on what's going on in the wrestling community, mainly from WWE, TNA. But I'm very happy to say, and it was through a lot of feedback from some of our followers, that they want to hear more about NXT results. So beginning next Tuesday, we are going to be sharing with you the NXT results. We'll bring it up on Tuesday, and then we'll bring it up again on Thursday. So we're definitely going to slide that into our repertoire. So you definitely want to check in on that if you're an NXT fan, as a lot of the guys that are coming up now have come through NXT and Superstars. We'll be, at a later time, we'll be sliding in Superstars as well, but right now we're going to be focusing on sliding in NXT. And from there, let's talk a little bit about wrestling-related news and what a somewhat busy week that it's been, as I got some interesting Sunny news. That's right. Tammy Sitch, otherwise known as Sunny, was scheduled to make an appearance as a vendor for the American Icon autographs this weekend in Toronto, Canada. But guess what? It's been canceled. And this is what was said by Wrestle Reunion, and I quote, "Feel free to ask them why in person if you need specific details." However, as we noted, she has also no-showed two different promoters in Miami 2 weeks ago. Okay? Now, American Icon Autographs representative Zach Benson has stated in an email that Cinch is currently dealing with personal issues, which is preventing her from appearing at the event. Now, keep in mind that this is her third cancellation, and as a result of that, they no longer have the desire to do work with her ever again. And this is what he went on to say, and I quote, "The truth is, we are also losing quite a bit of money over her cancellation, not to mention how disappointed our company is as well. Sunny has canceled on us twice now, and we have no intention of giving her another opportunity at this point. She seems to be having personal problems, and for whatever reason, she is unable to attend. Cancellations are one of the few pitfalls of this business when you have to rely on celebrities. This late in the game, we are unable to replace her with another guest because we had no warning that she might not attend. It just isn't cool no matter how you look at it." So, very unfortunate news there. And for you Sunny fans, you all know that she has been battling a series of health problems in recent months, and she stated numerous times on her Facebook page that she's been hospitalized. Most recently, she was hospitalized 2 weeks ago, and as a result of that, that had her miss a few scheduled appearances for NWA Ring Warriors. So you can only hope that whatever is going on with her, that she gets her act together, because she's burning her name and she's building one hell of a negative reputation. I mean, it's going to be one of those situations where if she's not careful, the only thing she's going to be doing, if she's lucky, is working a 9-to-5 job at Target. So, not really good. And we got some Tito Ortiz news. Tito Ortiz, the beach bad boy, he is talking about possibly seeking a wrestling career once his MMA career is over with. And he went on to say, and I quote, "You look at it and you see Brock Lesnar and he's in the WWE now. All of a sudden he goes back to his roots. I don't know. Could Tito do that stuff? Wow, that'd be interesting, huh?" So, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Tito Ortiz wrestling. Now, wrestling for the WWE, I don't really know about all that. I mean, honestly, I say just let Brock Lesnar do it, because Brock Lesnar, that guy is just all around good. He knows what he's doing. Tito, just stick to MMA and things of that nature. And here's some other interesting wrestling-related news that I thought was kind of silly. WWE has now made it their business to confiscate Albert and A-Tray signs. Now, this went into effect at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. this past Monday, as they had security officers confiscate signs referencing Albert's new character, Lord Tensai. And they are really trying to silence this crowd. And, hey, the only thing I can say to that is you can take away the signs, but you're not going to be able to drown out the fans. I mean, we know how clever WWE has been in the past, such as using music of the likes of Hulk Hogan. If you were to go back and look at the latest Hulk Hogan anthology or the Hulk Still Rules DVD, if you remember, Hulk Hogan at one point was coming out to Jimi Hendrix' Voodoo Child. Well, they did their little beautiful editing, and now they just have his classic Real American song playing. But if you crank your volume up, not extremely loud, but just at a good level, you can still hear the Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child playing deep in the background. So they can confiscate the signs all they want, but what's next? Are they going to try to edit the crowd? You can't really edit the crowd. It's going to be too much editing. They're going to know that it's being tampered with. honestly, at this point, you should just go on ahead and embrace the fact that, yes, Lord Tensai is really Albert. Like I said on a previous episode of the RCWR show, if they were slick about it, they could set up in their own way. This is a storyline, and maybe what needs to happen with Albert is they just have him break character and finally talk and say, you know what, it's because of people like you that made me the man that I am today. And he doesn't even need to say that in English. He could just say that in Japanese, and maybe somebody could translate for him. I mean, after all, he does have a manager, and the manager has yet to get involved in his matches. So I think that would be a really great way to really have him break the crowd and possibly silence all these people that are sitting up calling him Albert. I mean, you've already, from a WWE creative standpoint, you've already sat up and have acknowledged that he wrestled in Japan. Why try to sit up and act like this is some new person that just came from out of nowhere when we all know exactly who he is? Just saying. And in other wrestling-related news, Scott Steiner, and he's been making his rounds on Twitter as of late, as he's just been releasing a series of rants, but it's been good rants. He's been basically expressing his views of how the TNA organization is, and this is the latest that he said in a rant on Twitter earlier Thursday afternoon, because we're now going into Friday. This is what he said: getting a lot of support from everybody because I'm saying what they wish they could. Even guys from back in WCW who Hogan kept his thumb on, and Eric was an asshole too. Tonight is a good night for you fans to help save TNA. So all you fans of AJ, Roode, Angle, Abyss, Sting, Morgan, Magnus, Kazarian, everybody who was a fan of TNA before Bischoff, Hogan, and Picard fucked TNA up, tonight during the show, if you see Hogan, Bischoff, or his son, turn the channel, wait 5 minutes, and turn it back. You won't miss anything. Except their bullshit. And it will give you fans a voice through the Nielsen ratings. Let's show these assholes that we don't want their bullshit, and it's time to save TNA from the same fate as WCW. And, I mean, you know what? I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've been saying that for weeks after weeks with Eric Bischoff. He has to get in his TV time to increase his stock, and he's putting his son in our faces every single week. And, you know, some of you that might be listening to this, you might be saying, Lee, you think you might be taking it a little bit too far with regards to Garrett Bischoff. There are a ton of TNA fans that are disgruntled with the way that Garrett Bischoff is being used and rammed down their faces every single week. They don't want to see Garrett Bischoff. They don't care. And it's so funny because you can't help but compare Garrett Bischoff to Shane McMahon. Now, both are sons of respected promoters, respected businessmen, respected creative minds. But this is where it's different. Shane McMahon, who although wasn't a full-time wrestler, it naturally came along with his ability to deliver on the microphone. Just the other day, I was sitting up and I was talking to my best friend from my high school, college days, and I said to him, man, it's sad that WWE didn't release a best of Shane O'Mac, because that guy really has some damn good matches. And we're like, yeah, he did. How about that match with Kane? It's like, yeah, when he jumped off, yeah, that was a good match. And I mean, Shane O'Mac, it was in him. The business was literally in him from the moment he was born. Now, Shane McMahon, he may have went off and he might be doing something else entirely different now, but it was still in his blood. And when he finally came onto the scene and he had those times where he was going to wrestle somebody, he didn't get booed out of the building. He was welcomed. It was, hey, it's a McMahon, willing to get their sleeves rolled up, get dirty, and plus they saw that Shane had that it factor. He understood the wrestling business. With Garrett Bischoff, this just really comes off forced, okay? I'm sorry, but you can have all the nice tattoos in the world and a small waist and nice cute smile. You can have all that. It doesn't mean anything to me. If I think that you're the type of person I would see if I needed to know if I should buy this HD TV or not at my local Best Buy, then to me you just don't look like you're a wrestler. And Garrett Bischoff looks like the type of person that should be working at Best Buy. I'm sorry. I call it how I see it. You may not agree. Hey, at least we can agree that it's okay to disagree. But moving right along, let's talk about some other wrestling-related news. Of course, we got to stay on Scott Steiner, who, as you all know or probably don't know, he parted ways with TNA more than 2 weeks ago. And a little bit before that Twitter rant that he had stated, here's a little bit more about what he had to say during a radio interview when he was hyping up his days dealing with Kurt Angle at the Bound for Glory. He said, nah, he's not ready. He's not the next guy, Hogan said of Roode to Bust It Open in October. You know, they might think he is. Dixie Carter might think he is. The whole world might think he is. He's not the next guy. If I had to bet money on anybody and really be serious about betting money on anybody, I'd say Jeff Hardy is the next guy if he keeps his act together. That's if you gotta have that man. This is much more than being a wrestler. This is crossing barriers, media barriers, and entertainment barriers of all kinds. Getting your character down verbally has 90% to do with getting over. And Steiner would go on to say that Roode was infuriated by Hogan's remarks and planned to call him out in a radio interview. Picard, however, had begged Roode not to, and he ultimately kept quiet. And then Steiner would also slam TNA for their non-cynical storylines and compares the promotion to World Championship Wrestling, WCW. And here we go. This is what he said. I'm going to run all this off here. When I look at Hogan, I see the same thing as the Nielsen rating system does. Low fucking ratings. Hogan, who attacked Bobby Roode on radio before he was going to wrestle Kurt Angle. And Philly on pay-per-view saying Roode wasn't ready. I've wrestled Bobby a bunch of times, and he wrestles hard every night, and he can go. He can talk, wrestle, and looks good, and he's proving that Hogan doesn't know shit. Except that Garrett is the future. What the fuck? At the pay-per-view, he was pissed and went up to Picard and told him he was going on the radio and calling out Hogan. And Picard begged him not to. So I see him and he tells me what happened. I told him that's what Hogan does. In WCW, Hogan put his thumb on everybody, deciding who wins in every match because he has creative control in his contract. Hogan shows up and changes the outcome of his match. Bobby was going to kill him, but he kept his cool. Every TV, every pay-per-view, the place is a zoo circus because these assholes change things every hour. The storylines are stupid and don't make sense. And when you ask questions, they can't give you a reason why they want you to do something that makes sense. And since Hogan, Bischoff, and Picard brought the chaos the circus to TNA, they also brought their own clown midget, which is Jason Harvey. Yep, that one. The insignificant bro in Wonder Years. This 5'5" midget walks around fucking crazy. Why is he there? He's business partners with Bischoff, just like Hogan and Bischoff are business partners. Now do you know why TNA is the Titanic and is sinking fast? Need to save TNA. They are doing the same bullshit that they did in WCW, except now instead of pushing Flair's son David to the point where he beat Chris Benoit, he is now pushing his own son where David Flair is today. I've seen all this shit before. Remember, he made David Arquette champion. Fuck. Ted Turner owned WCW and they ran it into the ground. And he was a multi-billionaire. We were all in the back saying, what the fuck, are we in the Twilight Zone? Fucking crazy. The same weekend he was supposed to go, let me back up. The same weekend he was supposed to go on ESPN and promote the pay-per-view, so he is on the show, and the host asks him what's his most embarrassing moment in the ring, remembering he's there to promote the pay-per-view. He says wrestling Andre, and he shits himself. The host asks him a couple of more questions, which I don't remember because I'm on the floor, belly laughing. Then the host thanks him for coming on the show. And he says, be cool, eat fruit. That's right, be cool, eat fruit. What the fuck way to promote the pay-per-views, dumbass. Scott Steiner, folks, you got to give him the award of the year for really jumping out there and really keeping it real. We need more guys like him that can be that vocal and really bring to attention what's going on in that company. And you really just want to hope for the best of TNA. You see the mistakes that they might make on a weekly basis, and there are those weeks where they get it right. They just can't be consistent with it. You'll want to root them on just as a wrestling company. And it's silly when you sit up and you hear these people talk about what's going on with, well, I like WWE and I like TNA. Let's just agree on one thing. We all like wrestling, and right now, the more variety that we have, the better, because it's competitive. They're trying to outdo each other, and that's what it's really all about, folks. It's just about wrestling. It's about the entertainment. And Bully Ray is strongly being considered for a championship push. So that should be very interesting to see, because depending on the outcome of the Lockdown pay-per-view, we may have an idea on where exactly Bully Ray is going to go. Let's jump into some music news. Not too much going on, but as I said, for you Guns N' Roses fans, you're going to be a little upset at this, but Axl Rose has decided that he is not going to attend the Guns N' Roses Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony coming April 14th, and he wrote a very apologetic letter, and some of the things that he mentioned, and I'll quote this, I strongly request that I not be inducted and absentia, and please know that no one is authorized, nor may anyone be permitted to accept any induction for me or speak on my behalf. Neither former members, label representatives, nor the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should imply, whether directly, indirectly, or by omission, that I am included in any purported induction of Guns N' Roses. And I know a lot of you are hearing that, and you're probably like, what an arrogant prick. And honestly, I couldn't agree with you all more. y'all know I am a Guns N' Roses fan, and when I heard this news, I was a little bit upset. I was like, wow, you know, a lot of fans really felt that, yeah, they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and there was just that little bit of hope that was being held on to, that maybe him and Slash and the rest of the original Guns N' Roses bandmates could come together and really let bygones be bygones and just for one night only try to appear as if they're freaking adults and just really make it be about the fans. And here, once again, this is a situation where Axl Rose is feeding his own ego and deciding what would really be best for him. Very unfortunate news there, but hey, what can you do? And in other music-related news, will.i.am is being sued by a company that's claiming that he had bailed on a deal that he made with them to loan his name and likelihood for a clothing line. And this deal was done a couple of years back, but at the last minute he bailed out, so they're suing him for a few $1 million. So that should really be interesting there, how that plays out. And in other music news, it looks like despite the fact that Nate Dogg died last year, it looks like his spirit is going to live on, as Dr. Dre has been telling people that he doesn't want to leave Nate out of his Sunday performance, and it's going to be some type of a hologram technology that he's going to be incorporating into his show at the Coachella stage, where Dr. Dre will be performing with Snoop Dogg, Corrupt, Warren G, and Daz Dillinger. And this should be very interesting to see, as it's the same type of technology that was pulled off to broadcast Mariah Carey's image across Europe last year in 5 separate countries. And that is really it right now. And I thank you for listening to this Thursday night edition of the RCWR show. But don't forget, immediately after the Lockdown pay-per-view this Sunday at 11 p.m. Eastern, we are going to have a very special Lockdown pay-per-view post-show. So definitely check in on that, call in, share your thoughts of the pay-per-view. It's going to be a really good one. Again, that's going to be coming this Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, so do join us. And be sure to check out all our other episodes on iTunes. Y'all have a great weekend, and hopefully you'll be able to join us this Sunday. Take care, everybody.
Talking to clients all day long can make me real hungry. When I'm hungry, I'm not a very good listener.
Snickers satisfies you.
To tell you the truth, I keep a Snickers bar in the third drawer of my desk. Takes the edge off my hunger and fills me up just fine.
Packed with peanuts, peanut butter nougat, caramel, and milk chocolate.
Satisfies you.
Packed with peanuts, Snickers really satisfies.
When it seems like forever to my next meal, Snickers holds me over beautifully.
Michael Jackson is back in action with his new album, Thriller. Thriller, Michael's new album featuring his latest hit, Billie Jean, plus his smash single with Paul McCartney, The Girl Is Mine.
The girl is mine.
Michael Jackson's Thriller. The excitement never lets up.
Available at all Sam Goody stores for $6.99 LP, $7.49 tape.
You're listening to the RCWR Thursday Night Show with Lee Sanders.